that will be left to the residents to decide. As far as the case of Mas Selamat is concerned, he is back in detention. And following through the Committee of Inquiry's recommendations, the security measures that have been put in place at the detention center have been greatly enhanced. I've seen it for myself before I left the Home Affairs Ministry. And looking at the processes, the procedures in which a detainee may be taken out to meet his family, that has also been changed quite significantly. And the Prisons Department does an audit of all these measures as well as the facilities every year. So I will have less concern about that. But to address the question of public accountability generally, this government is an open government that is not afraid to tell the people the truth and that will learn from the mistakes. We know that on the whole, the records of the government speak for themselves. You have seen the developments we have in Singapore over the last 50 years, or even in the last 10 years for that matter. And considering the resources that we have, the size of our country, the limited manpower that we have, and in competition with the countries with more than what we have, I think we have done pretty well. And as far as our people are concerned, I think they have also progressed. Looking at the education system, for example, it is one of the best, as you can see in the results shown by international tests. Our students do very well. And even when they come to getting access into tertiary education or post-secondary education, there are many opportunities now, many pathways now for our students to go into different streams, whether it's the ITE, or whether it's a polytechnic, whether it's a university, whether it's overseas, or whether it is just a skills course for them to enhance whatever skills they have. So there are many opportunities available to our young people to move up their social ladder and to do better for themselves and for the family. When you look at the facilities that we have for that matter, we do spend a lot of money on facilities. That's why you see upgrading everywhere. Even here in the local level, you see upgrading practically all the time. These are useful measures that will improve the living environment of our residents. But when it comes to a more general point about sharing with our people the concerns, the difficulties, the challenges we face, this government has never shied away from it. Has never shied away. From time to time, when we face a crisis, the government is always up front to say, well, we have a problem, and this is a problem, this is what we are going to do. I just take one example, that of Jemaah Islamiyah, or the discovery of a terrorist cell in Singapore, which has its origin from other countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, and which has its presence in many other places such as Australia as well, and the Philippines. We did not just arrest 15 individuals in December of 2001. By January, we went out to tell Singaporeans that this is what we have discovered, this is what we have done to engage the Malay Muslim community, and this is what we're going to do next, and this is what we're going to put in place in the years ahead. So we bring people together, we tell them what we do, we get their cooperation. At the same time, we also enlist the help of the community so that they too can be on the lookout for terrorist operations or for people who want to do harm to us. There's only one example. Take the case of SARS in 2003 after that. I was in charge because I was chairing the coordinating committee for the ministers. Now, it is not just a public health issue, because eventually the fear of the unknown, and the people do not know whether they will get infected, who will get infected, where will the virus spread, completely no idea. And they were very worried. And that atmosphere of fear of the health, their own health, was very real. Now, it is not just a hospital, not just an MOH problem. It affects our schools, our students, the parents who need to send their children to school. It affects the workers who need to go to work. It affects the economy, in other words. It affects the whole transportation system. So we came up, I had a meeting with the press, together with Corbin Wan and my other colleagues, and explained what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and we will take measures accordingly. So within a few months, when the virus died down and all the measures were in place, people took the precaution of washing their hands, keeping themselves clean, and including hawkers here who are helping out in taking temperatures, our grassroots leaders working hard on the ground. I think that's the way we have been communicating with the public. And this has been commented on by foreign analysts who said this is an open way of telling Singaporeans what Singapore is facing and how we are dealing with the problem. So we do not hide. We do not fear disclosing to the public the things we need to do. So as far as accountability is concerned, I think we do very well. Just look at the ratings or the assessments made by many well-known, reputable international organizations. They rate Singapore very highly in the area of security, in the area of governance, in the area of education, and in the area of employment, and so on and so forth. You look at the economy. We now have just slightly over 2.2% of unemployment, which in economic terms practically means full employment. Now, do people find difficulty getting jobs? Well, some may because it depends on the skill fit. Some may not like the particular job or the particular timing of the work. But actually, if Singaporeans want to work, there are jobs available because, after all, we do have many work permit holders and many other work pass holders who work in Singapore. So I think on all these scores, I would say that the government has done well for the people, and we will continue to do so. That's why we say this is our program for the next 5 years. We meant it. And when we say we meant it, it means we have actual measures, experience, track record to carry them out. So it is not something that we just articulate during election. It's not something that we try to piece together in the last minute of the nomination day. Nobody raised a question of Mas Selamat with me in any of these visits.
Or with us. Until you raised it.
So, no, the manifesto talks generally about accountability and particularly about Mas Selamat and about that father and son case of the passport.
Yeah.
Now, immigration officers clear and see thousands of visitors a day. Thousands of them, and there are more than 400 million people who get in and out of Singapore. Every officer on duty have to screen and check passports of thousands of people every time they're on duty. There was a slip-up, not because the officer made a fatal error, but because this person who took the son's passport went through immigration departure clearance at the auto gate. He didn't get through, so the immigration officer went forward, looked at him, looked at the passport, looked quite alike, and then helped him get through it. Then when he went to his destination country, subsequently when he returned, his son called the press and said, "My father took my passport and immigration let him through." That was what happened. ICA immediately investigated the case and found that indeed that was the case. The officer helped the man through, and he should have checked more closely, and the officer was dealt with, and it was accounted, right? But when you look at it, when one officer deals with thousands of passports a day, what about the individual traveller? How many does he carry each time he goes out? He only needs to carry one passport, his own. And therefore, it must be incumbent on him to check that that passport is his. That's key, because if not, then he will create inconvenience for himself and also cause trouble for other people. So I would also say that in this particular case, and even in on average of 5 other cases that people take wrong passports. I think people ought to be careful. If not, they can miss the plane.